How to be Batman. Criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot, using fear and intimidation to prey on the weak. When criminals and corrupt officials controlled a decayed city, one man took a stand and fought back. Using the symbol of his own fear, Bruce Wayne became a champion of the downtrodden, and used fear and intimidation to triumph over injustice. He is vengeance. He is the night. He is Batman. Origin. What inspired Bruce Wayne? On a night after he and his parents went to go see The Mark of Zorro, at 10:47 p.m., Bruce Wayne's parents were gunned down in an alley by an unknown assailant. Bruce Wayne never did find the killer when he became Batman, and it was something that haunted him the rest of his life. But it was because of that instance that he decided that he could not let this happen to the people of Gotham anymore. It was also due to the kindness of others, such as Dr. Leslie Tompkins, who had taken the boy in after he had been interviewed the night by several police officers to get his statement. And it was her kind words that inspired him to become a better man when he grew up. And it was due to the corruption and crime that he had seen in the city as he was growing, especially from mob members such as Carmine Falcone, that took a large effect on him as he grew older. As the mob controlled several of the government officials in the city, he knew that he could not stand up to them alone, and that the only way that he could get the police involved was to find one man who would actually stand beside him. And that man later became Jim Gordon, the commissioner of the police of Gotham City. But it was also his fear of bats that largely led him to find the strength and the symbol to fight back against these criminals, as he decided to use the fear that he had to fight them. And if he was fearing the bats, then they would as well. It was after his first night out, before he decided to don the costume, that a bat flew into his window in Wayne Manor. He had been badly beaten by several criminals, and he took this as a sign that this is what he was meant to do with his life. Mind and body. He spent several years, from the time he was 14 to for a period of almost 10 years, training himself in various martial arts throughout the world. Of the 127 fighting styles, he learned all of them. And these include boxing, the Brazilian dance fighting capoeira, judo, and karate as some examples. But he also trained himself in armed combat, with swords and shurikens. And he adapted the shuriken style into what he would use as batarangs. He also trained with a man named Henry Ducard, and this helped with his detective skills. Ducard was a manhunter, and Bruce would later find out he was an assassin. But it was his skills at tracking people that allowed Bruce to become the great detective that he would become as Batman. He also spent some time training with the FBI, but after discovering that how much bureaucracy there went in to solving anything with them, he decided that it was best to just go on his own. He also mastered chemistry, and this was very important to him when creating his gadgets for crime fighting. He created his own forms of smoke pellets and knockout gas, which would fit in canisters roughly that size. He also has created shark repellent, as many of you have probably seen the Batman movie from Adam West days. but it was also helped him in creating the antidotes for the Scarecrow's fear gas and the Joker's venom. Creating an identity. The Bat inspired him to create a costume that would use the necessary fear and intimidation that are required for his villains to fear him. And it was layered with protective body armor. His symbol on his chest, as you can see here, was specifically highlighted so that it would draw the gunfire from any targets. His chest is the most protected area on his body with armor, and it is fashioned with a Kevlar and no-mesh weave for insulation from fire and other attacks. And for his voice, he would get more of a gravel in it, and it was due to the Alfred's theatrical training that he helped Bruce to master these skills so that he could create two separate identities of Bruce Wayne and Batman. And it allowed him to change his body language as well. Using, as Bruce, he would be more relaxed and slouched, while he had to create a more intimidating presence for Batman. Hiding his identity. Alfred is the best person to help with Batman because he creates alibis for him when it was necessary for him to be on patrol, and there's not always a good excuse for him. Unfortunately, this was not always the case when Bruce was framed for murder of his girlfriend Vesper Fairchild. The only alibi he had before the police got there was that he had been on patrol as Batman, and he could not compromise his secret identity. There have been extenuating circumstances when he has lost complete control of who he was and created separate identities, such as the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. This was used as a failsafe in the event that anyone would try to harm his immediate circle of close allies, as well as if they found out his own identity. The Batman of Zur-En-Arrh was delusional and had hallucinated a small character named Batmite that would help him. And there was a time when he induced amnesia on himself when a man named Hugo Strange solved his identity. In order to conceal his Bruce Wayne persona, he actually had to cause himself to have some amnesia by suppressing his Bruce Wayne personality. This shows his incredible control over his mind and body. Conclusion. To be Batman would take an unbelievable amount of dedication, not to mention finances. Between his gadgets and skills, the only way to be Batman would be to give up a civilian identity to dedicate life to crime fighting. But if you had the means and believed in a cause strongly enough, maybe being Batman wouldn't be entirely impossible. Thank you.